up, Dark Truth? What's happening with you on this lunar day? Waiting on some that's all you can do, man. Smooth Cadillac ride. See if we get us any more folk joining in, then we'll get going here. So I'm running some errands as usual. The ride of consciousness. Right on. Need to make that need to be the next reality show. Ride of consciousness. We'll give us a couple of seconds here, a couple of minutes. Wait and see if we'll get a couple more people. And if not, no problem. We'll roll on with it. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. I was thinking about something, and that's really why I do these. I really enjoy doing these lives because they allow me to get things expressed when they pop up in my head. So the numerology, one of the things that we don't hear about often when dealing with numerology is that, well, first let me give you this tidbit, something you might already know, but just need to state it for the record, that when we're dealing with true numbers and numerology or true math, there are only the numbers 1 through 9. What's up, Marcus? There are only the numbers 1 through 9. Okay? So, with that established, the 4, the 7, and the 1 are all the same number. Or let me say it in order. The 1, the 4, and the 7 are all the same number. Now, to get the explanation of that, you know, that's something that's reserved for our adept members of Masters of the Cosmos. We're gonna go in depth about why 0 is the unknown. 0 is the unknown. But the active principles that come out of the unknown are 1 through 9. 0 trumps all of them. As we see, when you try to multiply any of those numbers by 0, it comes back to 0. So obviously, then 0 takes precedence over the other ones. Thus, it can't be relegated to being named, you know, or in the category of holding 1-digit reference as the others. So we'll explain the 1, the 4, and the 7, why they are the same energy. You know, that's something we'll talk about in class soon. But we do want to look at numerology as it applies to history. Okay, y'all hold on one second. I got to take this. had to take that retainer out before I damn choke. Okay. And I thought about, from a numerological perspective, I thought about history. And everything is just a reverberation of Yahe Vahe. 4. Yah, 1, or Yeh, 1, He, 2, Va, 3, He, 4. And then that final He, or number 4, then goes on to start a new cycle. You just have to, if you don't catch that, just run it back and listen again. But we'll really go into explaining that, for adept members or masters of the cosmos. But just keep that in mind. Yahe Vahe. Okay? Okay. So, Yeh, 1. He, 2. Va, 3. He, 4. Cycle. All right. So, if you apply that to history, I've been talking about ever since the Kanye West thing came about. I've been talking about Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z. Well, today I'm going to lay out for you how all of this has been leading up to where we're at. And I'm going to give you some historical references. We're going to count the generation that comes after the Emancipation Proclamation as 1. Because that generation went from, we're going to say, 1865 to 1885. Okay? Then we're going to count, part of that is your Reconstruction era. Then we're going to count your turn of the century era and leading up to it as, but we'll do it this way. We're going to say 1865 till roughly 1900. Okay? Then we're going to say 1900 to 1925, your turn of the century era. Okay? Then we're going to say 1925, 26, somewhere in there. We're going to call that your pre, during, and post Depression era babies. Okay? And that goes from 1925 to 1944. 1945 to 1965 are your baby boomers. Now, mind you, I just gave you 4 generations. I said 1865 to the turn of the century. Yeah. Turn of the century to roughly 1925, 26. Hey. Okay. Shit, I should have got over. And then from 1925 to 26 to 1944, we're going to call that Yahe Va. And then your baby boomers, 1945 to 1965, He. Yahe Vahe. Okay, completed a cycle. Generation X then became a new womb that was developing a new cycle. You notice Malcolm X is murdered in 1965. I think there's more to that than just, just a conspiracy. There's an energy that he served as a doorway, ushering out one era and ushering in another. And I think that certain folks were aware of that. You know, it's not by happenstance that, I always talk about this, Star Trek comes out the next year. Okay, so 1965-66 ushers in what's called Generation X. X is the unknown, X is the feminine, the womb, as in the X chromosome. All right? Generation X is said to span from 65 to 84, roughly. So those coming in 85 to 2004 would be Generation Y. Y is although Y can be a feminine, because it's like your fallopian tubes, but as it correlates to X, Y is a masculine. So the Generation X would be the unknown, because it's like Marcus said, the zero is the unknown. The unknown gives birth to a masculine principle first. Generation Y. Generation Y is supposed to be the generation of resistance. Now, what do we mean by that? When you put up, if the Y corresponds to a phallus or masculine energy, then when you put up a sail on a boat, what does that sail do? It provides just enough resistance to the wind to keep the boat afloat and to keep the boat moving. Okay? The Y generation is supposed to be the resistance, as in a generation that has more consciousness because of the sheer fact that it has more access. All about access. But even they were not the end all do all. The end all, well, not, I'm not gonna say the end all. They were doing a job to lead to what's next. Generation Z. So Yah, Hey, Va. Yah, Hey, Va. So Z, let me see. So if X is roughly 65 to 60 to 84, and Y is 85 to roughly 2004, then your Z would be 2005 up to roughly maybe 2025. Now, did I get that right? I said Y was 85. Yeah. So now, if you want to understand why technology has to be pushed through the roof, it's because technology has to be rolled out. All the science that the technology is based on is ancient. It's nothing really new. But the technology, the production of it in our paradigm we live in has to be rolled out and at an alarming pace, because it needs to keep up with what is predestined for Generation Z, which would be the fourth installment of, or the fourth piece of the Yahé Vahé. Okay? So, whereas Generation X would be like an initial spark, Generation Y is supposed to be the more knowledgeable generation of the spark. Generation Z, oh no, I misspoke. I said Z was a fourth piece. No, I'm wrong. That's a third. Generation Z then would be the absolute knowing of this power. So that means that This is supposed to be the generation, and not to try to sound funny when I say this, we're talking about a generation that walks through walls. A generation that could possibly fly. And if not this generation, if this world is still in existence, we're talking about what comes after them is very, very, I don't want to say dangerous in the sense of like it scares me, but dangerous to any entities that are hoping that stagnation